Hello everyone, my name is Stanley St. Bros, and today we're going to be talking about A Plague of Ticks, written by David Sedaris. Now, before I go into summary analysis of this work, please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and or comment so that the channel can continue to grow. Now, in this work, David Sedaris pretty much just tells about his childhood and how he had to get by with this plague of ticks. What he means by plague of ticks is he has a series of impulses that he has to go through before to survive, just to exist. Throughout the essay, there's different scenarios where he's sitting in class and his mind would tell him pick up his shoe and tap it 3 times on his head, or he'll be sitting in class and he has to randomly get up and go lick the light switch. And this caused many disruptions. His father gave him a bloody nose because he wouldn't stop putting his nose on the car window. When he got home, he had to touch the doorknob with his elbows. These impulses go on and on and on. I mean, when he gets to his room, he has to arrange things in lines and orders. When he gets to his house, there's different things he has to do. Make sure that the iron is not on. Make sure that this and this is turned or facing the right direction. Make sure that he licked a post, or he's licking things, he's touching things, he's getting down on the street on his hands and knees and licking different things and reading people's newspapers on his hands and knees or trying to lick them. His brain just makes his life a living hell. He has to touch different things on his way home, different light posts, different trees, different things. These impulses just keep coming and sometimes they get more elaborate. At one point in the essay, he starts making noises and making gaggles, and weird laughs and weird noises, and these tics keep coming. They come in different forms. Sometimes it's him saying something, sometimes it's touching something, sometimes it's licking something. There's a little tense scene within the essay where he tells us he hopes one day he doesn't start twisting people's necks, because if his brain tells him, he kind of has to do it because it's by impulse. If he misses a step on his way home from school, he has to wake up in the middle of the night and walk to school and walk back just so his mind could be at rest. The way that David Sedaris was describing this, it was a living hell. If you're just reading it, it was a living hell to just listen to what a person has to go through on a daily basis for his brain to leave him alone. The only time throughout the essay where he has a time to himself is when he's rocking to himself and listening to the radio. His mind was just moving in different cylinders in different ways, and he couldn't keep track of it. It was just too much for him. Even within the essay, he even tells us that he counts the steps. He counts the steps from his school to his home. The neighbors were telling on them, or telling on him. The neighbors were calling his mom and telling on him. His teachers had problems with him. And his mom is kind of like this laid back. She always has a cigarette in her hand. She's always smoking a cigarette. His dad just wants him to stop doing all these antics. They kind of know that it's this disorder, this impulse that he can't do anything about. And the way that David Sedaris, though, the way that he describes this in the essay, the way that the essay flows, it's kind of like he's telling, there's several points where you're reading this and you start to laugh because he makes it funny. He makes the situations that he gets himself in. If you can pull back, right? Let's say you had a camera in your hand and you were zooming into his life, right? If you pull back the camera and you just watch the person do these things, they can be quite funny. If you were sitting in class and some weird kid just got up and went to go lick the light switch and then went to go sit back down, it's disgusting. You don't want to touch that light switch. It's gonna distract other people. But that was his life. His teacher, his math teacher, was annoyed. His other teachers were annoyed, but his life just kept on going that way. And any day he could wake up and he had a new tic to deal with. So his life was very hard. When he sat in cars, it was tough. When he talked to people, it was tough. So he eventually, he goes through grade school, through middle school, through high school like this, and he goes to college. And pretty much when he gets to college, the one thing that he enjoyed, the rocking back and forth that he enjoyed, he had to stop doing it because his roommate thought that he was masturbating, because at night, his bed just kept on moving and shaking. So his roommate thought that was annoying and told him to stop. And so, he had to sit still or lie still in the night, and which is very tough for him because David Sedaris, he has to move around. The way he described it, he has to move around. He couldn't just stay still just like other people do. Um, Eventually what happens, the way that this gets fixed, I guess, he goes into drugs or he starts smoking cigarettes. So he finds a way to calm down his mind. Once his mind is calm and he doesn't have to think about all these things that his mind is telling him, he functions more like a normal human being. What ends up happening is he starts smoking cigarettes like his mom. While I was reading this, though, I did have some type of thought. I hope that maybe his mom's smoking. Hopefully she didn't smoke when she was pregnant with David Sedaris, because maybe that could have had some effect on him. That's just my perspective. Maybe it's wrong, but the mom smoked a lot. The way that the way that David Sedaris describes her in the essay, it seemed like she smoked a lot, and that's just something she did by impulse. And so David starts smoking cigarettes, and that helps him control his impulses. He comes to the point where he doesn't have to touch doorknobs with his elbows. He doesn't have to, put his nose on the car window when he's in the car with his friends. But he smokes a lot, though. To combat all these impulses, he smokes a lot. He does a lot of recreational, he says drugs, but it seems like he's just smoking within the essay. But that's what he does, is to maintain his composure, to maintain normalcy within his life. Because before the cigarettes, before he found some substance to help him control it, life was just a horrible mess for him. In terms of analysis, in terms of a deeper meaning in here, what from my perspective, what I see in this essay is just kind of like how people judge David Sedaris. I mean, he was judged a lot. His the neighborhood that he lived in judged them. His family judged them. They made fun of him. Whenever he would get home and touch the doorknob with his elbows. And I guess try to open the door with his elbows, and his sister would make fun of him, his family members would make fun of him. They wanted to stop. I don't know if the way that it's described, it's kind of like they didn't see it as a mental disorder, but it's definitely a mental disorder. The impulses that he had were just mental. It was all mental. It could have been a symptom of high stress. But I mean, once he learned how to control it by smoking cigarettes, because the cigarettes, when he smoked them, he calmed down, right? He calmed down. His mind stopped moving so fast, because when he wasn't on the cigarettes, his mind was just moving and moving and moving and telling him what to do, that and the third, and he had to listen, because if he didn't listen, it would just be, agony. So I mean, by the end of the essay, this all gets fixed. People stop judging him, because no one really ever knew his true story. I mean, you could see him do these weird things and you just judge him and ridicule him, but until you know what was going on in his head, what was going on in his life, why he had to do all these things, you really wouldn't understand what he was going through for the majority of his childhood and early adulthood. So by the end, his life is much better. He just becomes a normal human being, because when these impulses, when these plague of tics get taken away, when the plague is lifted, he's pretty much normal. He just has to smoke cigarettes a lot. There's a win there, but also, I don't know how that's affecting his health, because that's, cigarettes give you cancer. So that's a win-lose situation. You get rid of the plague of tics, but there's a possible chance of cancer by smoking so many cigarettes. But this essay doesn't cover that. That's just my own perspective. Really interesting essay. It gives you an interesting perspective on people who live with tics, basically, or people who don't have impulse control. So that's my perspective on the essay. That's what I have to say about it. Please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and or comment. And I'll see you guys in the next video.